Throughout the land of Hyrule, you will come across strange rocks with eyes on them that were placed long ago by the Sheikah, a secretive tribe with immense power that served the Hyrulean kingdom. And in an older video, I covered the real purpose of these stones, spying on the people. And when you talk to them with the Mask of Truth on, they will reveal information that is a bit vague. So let's look at all the things these stones have shared with Link to see what it all could mean. In front of the Temple of Time, we found a number of Sheikah stones who have a lot of secrets. For example, the first one says, they say that Gerudos sometimes come to Hyrule Castle town to look for boyfriends. Now, this isn't some massive mystery. As we all know, the Gerudo only produce a single male member every 100 years, who always ends up being Ganondorf, the reincarnation of the Demon King demise. And so the tribe as a whole are forced to find a husband outside of their own tribe. But funny enough, they never keep them around, which is exactly what we saw with the Carpenters. So that is why they secretly come to Hyrule Castle town to lure in men they could use to keep the tribe going. Although we never actually see them in any Hylian settlements, because they are enemies of the state after all. So they might actually be hiding in plain sight. Now the stone next to it says something more curious, which is actually a tip to make things a lot easier. It says, they say it is against the rules to use glasses at the treasure chest shop in Hyrule Castle Town Market. Now the Sheikah stone is alluding to a minigame found in town. The goal is to decide between two chests in each of the 5 rooms. One will hold a set amount of rupees, while the other will have a key. As you can imagine, the point is getting to the end. But just doing this without any help is quite hard. However, like the Sheikah stone said, you can use glasses. And if you do, then it's a piece of cake. The lens of truth, which reveals all, allows you to see what is inside the chests, making the whole minigame trivial. So this isn't some lore secret, but just a super useful tip for players. Now the Sheikah stones also collect very sensitive information, which at times can even some sort of predict the future. For example, they say that Malon of Long Long Ranch hopes a knight in shining armor will come and sweep her off her feet someday. Now we have no idea how it overheard this very personal desire, but we do see in Ocarina of Time that Malon and her dad come to Hyrule Castle town every once in a while to deliver milk. So the Sheikah stone most likely overheard this on one of their supply runs, and according to some fan theories, it even predicts the future. Many fans see this as proof that Link and Malon end up together, with him being the knight in shining armor. He helps her out multiple times throughout the games, and she seems to fancy him. So it could very well be that they do become a couple in the future, with this magical stone predicting it decades before it ever happens. Now there's one other Malon claim. However, this one is not too interesting. It says, they say that Malon set the original record in the obstacle course of Lon Lon Ranch, which is a fun little detail, but in the end, not very important. But obviously, there are a lot more Sheikah stones around Hyrule Castle itself that we need to cover. After climbing up the vines at Hyrule Castle, you will see another stone that also has a secret to share with us. It says, they say if you get close to a butterfly while holding a Deku stick in your hands, something good will happen. Now, this is a rather strange statement, and the first time you encounter it, this will probably confuse you a lot. But if you actually try what is suggested, you will quickly notice that this trick is incredibly useful. When you pull out a Deku stick near a swarm of butterflies and walk very slowly, allowing a butterfly to land on the tip of the stick, it transforms into a helpful fairy that can resurrect Link if he dies. Again, this is a useful tip. However, I wonder how the Sheikah stone ever figured this out, but I can't imagine that it overheard this anywhere. So I guess that will remain a mystery. Now as you progress deeper into the castle grounds, you will see another Sheikah stone after climbing up the wall at Hyrule Castle. And this one actually reveals some crucial information, which might even spoil a massive secret in the game. The biggest twist in this Zelda title. According to this stone, they say that, contrary to her elegant image, Princess Zelda of Hyrule Castle is, in fact, a tomboy. Which might seem like a fun little Easter egg about the princess that doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. However, when you become an adult due to drawing the Master Sword from the pedestal, which forces Link to wait for 7 years before he can wield it, you will quickly meet a mysterious figure known known as Sheikah, who helps you throughout your adventure. But at the very end of the game, it is revealed that Zelda is actually this mysterious figure, who became the Sheikah ninja due to Impa's training and to hide from Ganondorf. And this Sheikah stone actually kind of spoils this secret. However, most players never really made that connection. But still, it's fun that Nintendo added this little hint. But of course, these spying stones can also be found in a bunch of other places aside from the capital. For example, the forests where Link grew up. And once again, they know more than you would have ever imagined. The Kokiri Forest, Lost Woods, and Sacred Meadow are some of the most mysterious regions in the game, with many supernatural forces being at play here, which the Sheikah stones have clearly noticed as well, because the one found in the Lost Woods near the bridge says, they say that when non-fairy folk enter the Lost Woods, they become monsters. Now this is most likely something it overheard the Kokiri themselves say, because they are a lot more knowledgeable about these strange forests. Anyone who enters becomes some sort of monster, with adults usually becoming Stelphos and children turning into Skull Kids. We even see this in-game, with the Master Craftsman's son turning into a skeleton according to Fado, due to the fabled curse of the woods, even though Link was trying to save him. So it is clear that some odd things are going on here, and the Sheikah, as well as royal family, are certainly aware of it. Now, some of the Sheikah stones found in the forested region of Hyrule have nothing more to offer than helpful little tips for the player. They say that the small holes in the ground that you find all over Hyrule make perfect breeding ground for bugs. And another in the Sacred Forest Meadow in front of the Forest Temple mentions, they say that it's possible to find a total of 100 gold sculptulas throughout Hyrule. So not all of them have some sort of lore or story implication, but still it's interesting to see that they are aware of the gold sculptula curse and how many there are. But for some reason, the Sheikah nor the royal family have acted on this, even though the family that was hit by this curse was rich and most likely very influential, which makes you wonder whether they even care about the whole situation, and maybe they even caused it. But that is a question for another day, because we have many other gossip stones to cover. In these forests there are stones that know a surprising amount, secrets that could ruin the story for some. For example, the Sheikah stone in the Sacred Forest Meadow tells us straight up how it is. I quote, they say that the owl named Kapora Gebora is a reincarnation of an ancient sage. And they say that the strange owl Kapora Gebora may look big and heavy, but its character is rather light-hearted. This basically tells you everything you need to know about Rauru, the one actually in control of this freakish bird. It describes his role, look, and even character. So yeah, this can be a massive spoiler if you obtain the Mask of Truth early. Aside from that, some of the Sheikah stones hold some of the greatest secrets in Hyrule, ones that could even benefit Ganondorf himself. The two found at the Great Deku Tree claim that they say that the Kokiri are always followed by small fairies, as well as they say that one Kokiri left the forest, but he's still alive. With these two pieces of information, you could easily identify and find Link before he would ever be able to do something. He might have even known about this. Ganondorf outplays both Link and Zelda completely in the beginning of the game, being able to obtain the Triforce thanks to it. Aside from that, it also established some very important lore. Kokiris and fairies are a match made in heaven. However, we have many more stones to cover that are found in completely different areas of Hyrule, and some hold secrets that could have changed everything. Now, moving over to Kakariko Village and the surrounding areas, we once again come across a number of cryptic messages. In front of the Shadow Temple, one of them says, they say there's a secret near a tree in Kakariko Village. Now, while I had some trouble figuring out what this secret was, I did find a hidden grotto in the middle of Kakariko Village, and in it are 2 re-deads, and after defeating them, you get 200 rupees, which is neat, but doesn't impact the game a whole lot. But the more I look into these Sheikah stones, I start to wonder at times, how do they even obtain information like this? Maybe this grotto is linked to the Shadow Temple? We do find re-deads in them after all, but who knows really. Now let's move over to the more dangerous side of this area, Death Mountain, where you can find a load of Sheikah stones, with some being quite important, while others are just fun little Easter eggs or facts. While climbing to the peak of Death Mountain, you will come across one that is almost like an advertisement for big Big Goron's work. It says, they say that Big Goron's sword is super sharp and will never break. Which is true, but another one that is found close to Death Mountain Crater is less nice about his smaller brother. They say Goron didn't really think about his own size, so his store is really cramped. So it's basically calling him rather dense, not the sharpest knife in a drawer, and none of this is really important to the game whatsoever. But still, it's a fun little detail. Now, some others found on this mountain are rather significant, and could have even saved the Kingdom of Hyrule from Ganondorf's evil reign. Inside of Goron City and the Dongo Cavern, you will find 3 Sheikah stones that say the following. They say that Gerudos worship Ganondorf almost like a god. They say that there's a secret around the entrance to Gerudo Valley. They say that Ganondorf is not satisfied with only ruling the Gerudo and aims to conquer all of Hyrule. Now, all of these secrets combined can give the Sheikah and Hylian royal family a huge edge. It could have even prevented Ganondorf from obtaining the Triforce, which led to a very dark future, although one of these secrets is less useful than the other 2. So clearly the forces in power are not really paying attention. If they had gathered this intel, they could have won, but that didn't happen. Now let's move on to the next set of Sheikah stones, which also hold some incredible secrets. Now on the other side of Hyrule, around Lake Hylia and the home of the Zoras, you can also find a number of Sheikah stones. However, only some of them hold truly valuable secrets. 2 of them talk about secret grottos, like the ones found on the road that leads to Lake Hylia, and one near a tree along the Zora River. And inside of these you will find a piece of heart, as well as some minor loot. That isn't really worth it in my opinion. So the secrets of these Sheikah stones are only valuable for true completionists, because finding these grottos without any hints is almost impossible. Now aside from these you can find 2 others, being located in the home of the Zoras, and these share rather basic tips and even one claim that can trigger some. They say that you can swim faster by continuously pressing B, and the second one says, they say that players who select the hold option for Z targeting are the real Zelda players. Now the first secret is a fact that does work in game, but the second certainly isn't. And apparently, according to Nintendo, there's only one way to play the game correctly. Hold is the way to go. So I guess if you're a fan of toggle for your Z targeting, Nintendo actually thinks you're wrong. Now, aside from this, 4 other Sheikah stones can be found around Lake Hylia and along the Zora River that actually hold a number of secrets about certain characters seen in the game. And some were even new to me. They say that Ruto, the Zora princess, who's known for her selfish nature, likes a certain boy. Now, this is obviously talking about Link, who's almost the victim of Zora love that he doesn't really reciprocate. And another secret that isn't really a surprise to many, because in the end a lot of NPCs in-game know about this, is that Zelda's nanny is actually one of the Sheikah, who many thought had died out long ago. Now some might categorize this as a secret, but a lot of people in Kakariko Village will already tell you what's up with Impa and her role in the overall story. So clearly this ain't some normal person. The kingdom would never entrust the princess her safety with someone who can't defend her. Meanwhile, the third claim isn't that interesting either. They say there is a man who can always be found running around in Hyrule Field. This is clearly talking about the Running Man, who you need to find to finish the Mask Shop quest chain. However, since you had to complete it in order to obtain the Mask of Truth, you already knew about all of this. But the last one actually blew my mind. It said, they say that the chicken lady goes to the lakeside laboratory to study how to breed pocket-sized cuckoos. Now this is something I never knew about, and shows how talented this young lady is. Apparently she even began this project because she's allergic to regular cuckoos, which is something I never knew about. Clearly some of the most mundane Zelda NPCs might actually have a very impressive background story. Now let's move on to the final area, where we can find Sheikah Stone secrets. Now, one area where you will also find plenty of these is the Gerudo Desert and its surrounding areas, a place that the forces of good would love to spy on. However, surprisingly enough, most of these secrets aren't even about Ganondorf, but it's clear that they're keeping an eye on him and are aware of what's going on in the region. For example, some of them have seen the King of Gerudos move around Hyrule. They say that the horse Ganondorf rides is a solid black Gerudo stallion, region, so they are tracking his movements and are aware of the threat he poses. I mean, one of them even mentions that he wants to conquer the world, but this isn't the only thing that they are aware of. They are also keeping an eye on Nabooru. They say that the thief named Nabooru, who haunts this area, is a Gerudo, so they are also monitoring the rebellion that is quietly forming within the ranks of the Gerudo. And it even seems like they have insider information, because one of them claims they say that the treasure you earn in the Gerudo's training ground is not as great as you would expect, given its difficulty. So they even know that the magical ice arrows can be found here, but aren't as important to the game as some would think. Even some of the infrastructure secrets have been figured out by these magical rocks. For example, they say that there's a switch that you can activate only by using the spin attack. Clearly, nothing is a secret to these Sheikah stones. With this information, the royal family could have ended Ganondorf's reign before it even began. But it's clear that they aren't aware of many of the Sheikah stone secrets, which might be because they don't have the Mask of Truth, and the Sheikah tribe itself, as a whole, has almost completely disappeared. But still, it's clear that the power of obtaining the secrets of these artifacts is incredibly valuable, and in many ways predicts exactly what will happen in-game. But sadly enough, most people in Hyrule never really cared about them, and so darkness was able to spread. Thank you all so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed. I thought covering these could be fun. If I missed any, let me know, and if this video does well, we might also cover the Sheikah stone quotes seen in Majora's Mask, for example. Aside from that, be sure to subscribe and like, because it really helps the show, and come hang out during the streams, because I stream every Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. So come hang out.